Welcome, everybody, to MogTalk episode 187. If you guys have not watched MogTalk before, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. It is October 26, 2019. At least for me, it is. Before we get started, I want you guys to be familiar of who we have on the show. That would kind of give you the theme of what the show is today. And I do want to start out with saying we are missing Sfia. Unfortunately, something came up and he was not able to attend the show. But that's all right. That's all right. We have two wonderful guests who will carry all of his points and everything that he thinks. They have it in their heads too, so it'll be fine, right? Yeah. Okay.
Something came up.
Yeah. Something came up that he forgot and messed up the time zones completely, and he couldn't do it. That's what it was. But to start us off, please, Harry, the first time you've ever been on the show, could you tell everybody who you are?
Hello, I'm the newbie here. My name is Harry, or HealmeHarry on Twitch. I stream Final Fantasy XIV 5 days a week. I've been doing that for around three years now, I think it's been. And yeah, so I'm from Australia, which is why I'm here today.
You're one of the two Australian streamers.
Yeah. I mean, there's heaps of us now. The community's growing heaps, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. And I want to mention that I have invited Harry on many shows that were not Australian-based shows, and he's turned me down every single one.
No, he's too cool for you.
It's just been such bad timing. I felt so bad because I've been wanting to come on the show for ages, and it's just been I can't do that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you got to say no to Frosty at least 5 times before he respects you. So
yeah, and absolutely,
it
was only 4 times, so.
Yeah.
You're fucking.
Was it 4 times? I mean, yeah, it was 4 times. Yeah, it was definitely 4 times. I'm that cool.
And I will say I was smart about it this time, and I said, I won't schedule a show until you can make it.
The show was scheduled on me. Oh my god, this is sounding worse and worse for me, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right. Enough embarrassing, Harry. Let me have this next guy introduce himself. Ethys, could you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Ethys. My time is also very precious and exclusive, just so you know. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm also a Australian.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
Nice.
Believe it or not. Yeah. No, I am. I really am. I really am.
For at least another couple of weeks, right?
Well, I still get people all the time, when I show up to things in Australia, they're like, Ethys, what are you doing in Australia?
That is true, because I mean you're known more in the well, actually, I would say anyone you stream in time zones where people catch you. I think from the NA and EU side, and so it gets a little bit weird. Harry, when do you stream? Is it normally more favorable towards Australia or EU?
I stream Australian prime time, which is when America is asleep and Europe is through the day. So it's mostly a European and Australian kind of audience for me. And then all you American people that stay up late or have insomnia or any of that,
There's a good amount of them. To be honest with you. Yeah. All right. So, and of course, we were going to have Sfia on the show as well to
Z.
represent the NZ, New Zealand. But he
Z.
It's
Z.
NZ. Oh, sorry, NZ. Sorry, you're right. You're right.
That's
NZ. But he wasn't able to make it. He thought the time was different and got confused because the time zones. They're a little bit hard to figure out, I assume. But that's okay. I'll talk for him a lot. I think I've talked with him enough to kind of absorb some of what he thinks and feels, and so I'll represent him on the show today. Because of course I'm not from New Zealand or Australia, but I can pretend. And I can sing Hobbit songs and such, and make bad jokes. Yeah.
Oh, please enlighten us.
What's your favorite
Hobbit song?
What's the one about liking breakfast? I don't know. Shit, I fucked that up. I don't have anything to back that up with. Maybe next time. I'll try it. You know what? I'll try it next time because I'll make a special video and raise money for charity, and we'll do that someday. How about that?
This is escalated
a little bit more than it probably should,
significantly.
right?
Yeah.
Really digging yourself in there.
I am deep in that hole. All right. Anyways, guys, we want to talk about the Australian and New Zealand community today. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about the Australian and New Zealand community? And I feel like this is something that shouldn't be asked, so fuck you. But that being said, Final Fantasy XIV is a very global game, and it has lots of different communities from all over the world that develop a little bit differently than the ones you might be familiar with. And I know a lot of the audience is NA and EU based. I feel like it's a good opportunity to kind of understand the perspective of a community that we're not familiar with, I guess, if that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
That also being said, time zones and everything else being completely difficult. I asked these guys to wake up extremely early. What time is it there now? It's
8:15. It's not bad in the morning.
Not so bad.
That's bad for a Sunday. For me, it's pretty bad. I usually sleep in a little bit. I was asleep until about 10 today, I think.
I mean, I usually do too, but here we are, Frosty. Here we are.
With my best friends that would change their sleep schedule for me.
To be fair, you did offer to move it a couple of hours later, and we denied. So
yeah,
you
well,
tried
you did.
to
I only asked you. I didn't ask it.
Oh, you didn't ask it.
That's just to me. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I force Ethys.
Chance.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, Ethys has missed a show before.
It's because we've already established that my time is precious at this, and yours is not. So.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the opportunity to learn more about the AUS/NZ community, and we're gonna dive into it a bit. Yeah, I got it.
Just A and Z is fine.
A and Z, A and Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, A and Z, Australia, New Zealand.
New Zealand, A and Z.
Okay.
Or Australia and Zealand, if you want to not include New Zealand.
Well, all right, we're not. I could go on that for a while, but we'll stop that tangent. Anyways, so talking about the gaming community, there's some things that I know about Australia's gaming community. I know games are expensive as shit. Over there. Is there anything overall, general arcing things about the video game community in Australia and New Zealand that people might be interested to know that's different from where it is everywhere?
I think, well, especially when it comes to online community, we're just so used to playing not with our own community. Like, we're so used to just kind of integrating into other communities because we never really have our own servers. I mean, it's starting to change a little bit now, but like we're so used to being parts of other cultures and other servers that I think our own gaming culture when it comes to online stuff is kind of still forming, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're very like fragmented as a community across most games, in that like some of us will play on like Asian servers, and some will be like, I'm not really about that because of the language barrier. So some will play on like North America, some will play on EU, and it's only really like the last 5 years or so that having Australian servers for any games like at all has been at all common.
Yeah.
So we're quite like insidious in that way. Like in 14, for instance, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's Australian, New Zealand players in like a lot of world prog groups. A lot of the time when you hear about like Japanese groups performing really well in the world race, it's not actually a Japanese group, it's an Australian group on a Japanese server, or a group that's made up of like, Australians and Singapore and Malaysia or whatever. We're everywhere.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty interesting thing to talk about, because let's say you're just your standard guy working 9 to 5, you come home from work. It's not always the best time to play with people in the same language.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the other thing, is like, that's because if you want to play during Australian prime time, you got to be on the Japanese servers, or you got to be playing on an Asian-based server because they share the same time zone as us. If you play through the day, then sure, go on and play on the American servers because you'll have prime time. But our prime time is I mean, it depends on the game, right? You know, if you're playing WoW and you're playing during Australian prime time, then there's enough Australians playing to make a prime time. But if you want that prime time experience at nighttime here, you do have to be on JP. You do have to be playing on Japanese servers. So,
and that spans across all games.
Yeah, we just like Australians as I guess a New Zealand as a whole, we're not used to having things. So we just deal with whatever little scraps we get. We deal with our 250 ping or whatever, and we just make it work because it's all we've ever had. We don't know any better.
You know, that's kind of funny because I remember back in the day with Titan and everything, someone from New Zealand was actually posting Titan videos where they were getting knocked off and they were nowhere near being in the right spot. And then it got a little bit of attention. Maybe something needs to be fixed because of it.
Well, Yoshida came to Melbourne for something in basically right after the launch of ARR. And that's when he decided to double the server tick because he played Titan in Melbourne playing on Elemental and was just like, oh, okay, I guess they're not exaggerating. This is literally unplayable.
He kept saying, he's like, I was so embarrassed because he's like, I couldn't dodge anything. He couldn't do anything.
He thought that we were just complaining, being like, no, this is unplayable. This is ridiculous. He's like, no. It was literally unplayable.
Yeah.
So that was
way better now.
What did they do? They doubled the server tick rate from like half a second to a quarter seconds.
I actually have no idea what they did to fix it. It was to do with
like the hit detection. Like the hit detection on the server would tick like every half second, and then he changed it to tick every quarter second, and that helped. But it's still like when we do shows here, when we do like packs and stuff here, it's a little bit. We have to like tell people in line, we're like, all right, we're not using VPNs. Okay, just remember that. You got to move.
We have to warn people beforehand. Yeah.
We're connecting to the JP data centers. We do not have VPNs.
Because VPNs are a necessity for us. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna not use my VPN today, and it's not really gonna make that big of a difference. It's like, for me, using my VPN is a difference of like 100 ping almost. Like,
and if you don't use it, if you try to raid without it, you're fucked. Like,
you're just messed up.
If you're not paying an extra $5 or $10 a month, then you can't fucking raid. It's just too bad.
Yeah, and not even talking about PlayStation 4 players because they can't get a VPN. So
it's an Australian tax. Play video games basically.
Right. Well, that's on top of the fact that we pay like $100 or $120 for a AAA game.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's getting depressing really fast. I don't want to do this anymore.
It's okay, guys. It's all right. That's why we're talking about it. You know, it's a good place to bring up these points. And that's actually pretty interesting to talk about just because you guys were recently hosting some stuff at an event for Final Fantasy 14 recently.
Yeah. We were at PAX Australia, and we were doing the Eden Battle Challenge, and we got to give out the shirts and everything, and it was Ethys and myself and Bless RNG. We were shoutcasting the fights. And it was really fun. It was like the first time that we also had a official Final Fantasy 14 fan gathering. So we've had some in the past, but they weren't official ones. And this time we actually had, people from Square Enix come out, and we had a proper one. So we're being recognized. But,
we're getting some attention.
Slowly but surely.
We've finally gotten big enough.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like we were saying before, the Australian community in 14 is very much like fractured and fragmented between different servers and like other communities and stuff like that. But over particularly like the last 3 or 4 years, we've been trying to centralize it more and more. And we've got this sort of official, unofficial Facebook group, which is at like, what are we, nearly 6,000 members now?
Yeah, definitely over 5,500.
Yeah. We've got a relationship with the people that do Final Fantasy 14's PR in the region to help us like organize these local events in like Sydney and Melbourne, a couple of times a year where we do these like meetups and talk about the game and have some drinks and give out some merchandise and stuff like that. And it's just gotten to the point as of PAX where 14 is actually like starting to officially endorse it and like actually give us some money to do these events. And that's really cool. Like we're getting that recognition. People are hoping that it's going to snowball towards some steps towards like a data center and all that kind of stuff.
Before we even go for a data center, we need to be able to pay for our sub in AUD, in Australian dollars, because we're still paying for our sub in euros.
So how does that work?
Well, all Australian and New Zealand accounts are technically European accounts. Like we don't have our own version of the game or anything. We get lumped in with Europe. So when we pay sub, when we buy something from the Mog station, it's all in euros.
It's really expensive.
Yeah, it's really expensive, and we have to pay conversion fees and stuff if our bank charges that. So like that, I think that's the first step, is being able to pay for our sub in our own currency. Like that would just be fantastic.
It actually reminds me of something, because when I did the FRC, and the PvP community was coming together, and they're like, all right, we're going to separate this into what regions people are in and everything else. There was a New Zealand player who had to be lumped in with EU.
Yeah.
And so if you're playing PvP, could you imagine being on a PvP team in EU with EU players if you live in New Zealand and trying to deal with that latency and difference in coordination?
Yeah.
It's already like when we're playing, I mean, those of us that do play PvP, like obviously you're playing against JP players that have got a ping of like 3.
Yeah.
And you've got a ping of like 150 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And it's just like, good luck.
The last feast season, I was living in Europe, so I was playing from Europe in European servers, so it was great. And then this next one, I'm gonna have to go back to playing JP ping again, and I'm worried, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, because that is really goofy, because it just doesn't make sense to group you guys. I mean, language-wise, I guess it makes sense, but it almost makes more sense to group you guys in NA than it is EU.
I mean, like our ping is better to NA than it is to
because it's not in California, so it's like
Well, because the servers got moved to California now, technically we could play on NA servers or JP servers and get pretty much exactly the same ping. But because the Australian and New Zealand community, they'd already kind of decided that we were going to be on Tonberry, most of the community was already there. And then there's the prime time thing as well. So
right.
But yeah, like we technically can play on American servers now with pretty decent ping. So
yeah. And I mean,
I think
good.
It is interesting that Australia is like treated as a subsidiary of the EU.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's because you guys, we're a prison continent for Britain, so technically it's the same thing, right?
I mean, I think there is like a little bit of that. It's like, oh, you guys are part of the British Commonwealth, right? You're just like an English state. I think it's also like the EU community is like a little bit small, like the EU player base is a little bit smaller, so it's kind of like easier to kind of like put us under that umbrella than it is to have
true.
But there's this idea like throughout the industry, right, that you have North America, you have Europe, you have Japan, and then you have like
everywhere else
which is just like who cares, doesn't matter. Whatever, wherever they'll fit.
And that sucks. I mean, at least Australia's on a map in most maps, right?
I like to hope so.
It's fucking big.
Yeah. New Zealand instead sometimes has to deal with a little bit of that. I guess I should ask you. This is a good point to bring up. Is New Zealand and Australian? Do you guys treat each other as different communities, or is it all just one community?
No, we treat each other as the same community.
I think when it comes to gaming, definitely we kind of see each other as very close siblings.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's of course there's still a little bit of like knowing that we're not exact, because there's tension between Australia and New Zealand all the time, but we kind of understand that we're in the same position and we're in the same situation, so we do kind of band together and stuff. So
okay.
Like a lot of statics in the past I've had, usually there's a New Zealand representative usually.
Do you make horrible New Zealand jokes towards them the entire time that you're raiding?
No, I think they're pretty worn out at this point. So I don't
Just
think
make fun of the accent.
Yeah, it's just the accent. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was curious about that because I never really thought about that. I thought about Australia, New Zealand versus like other communities and everything else, but I never really thought about how that all works out because I'm not very good with geopolitics and everything else and understanding other parts of the world. But I can just assume that right now you guys just kind of treat each other as maybe like. Well, would you compare? I don't know. Maybe this is hard to compare. Canada and US.
Well, I mean, the discrepancy is much greater between the two. Like New Zealand is really small. New Zealand is tiny.
Yeah.
So like maybe US and like Hawaii.
Yeah, they would like that, but yeah, it's maybe a little bit more like that.
Yeah. Because basically New Zealand hates that they get lumped in with Australia all the time.
Okay.
And Australia's like, well, why don't you just become a state of Australia? So it's like, there's this kind of like, yeah.
Wow. All right. I get it. And we'll just go ahead and make fun of Sfia for not being on the show, being able to voice, the New Zealand opinions
I blame
here.
Sfia.
Yeah.
He'd probably agree.
Yeah.
He'd probably be like, yeah, New Zealand's pretty small. Yeah.
Oh, Pook, let's not bring that in here. Not bring that. That's a whole other topic that I'm too close to right now. That infuriates me behind the curtains of everything. But that being said, let's talk about other communities dealing with maybe the Japanese community, because I know there is like a huge language barrier. There's lots of issues that really come and play with that. And at this, you've said your opinion on it. A good hand.
There doesn't need to be. There doesn't need to be a language barrier. So the way the Japanese data centers work is that for all content, there's macros.
Yeah.
We make a macro. We sort of like decide collectively as a community through trial and error which works better. I don't know if you guys have seen it before in North America or EU. You probably have, but it's for like every fight there'll be like a diagram.
Yep.
And on that diagram there'll be like D1 to 4 designating DPS. There'll be H1, H2, MT, and ST.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be in these diagrams basically for each mechanic, which will show, okay, this is where people stand for this mechanic. This is how people move for this mechanic. And someone posts that when you get into the fight, and then everyone just designates, basically it's whoever calls it first, like designates which position they want.
They'll type E1 or like H1 or whatever.
Yeah. And that is all the communication that is required for any extreme modes, for any savage raids, for anything whatsoever. We don't need to use auto translate. We don't need to be able to communicate in Japanese.
Yeah, it's all macros. And it's been like that since the start for JP, really.
Yeah.
It's just been a culture thing.
Yeah. But if you do start talking, you start typing in chat and it's not in Japanese, you'll get like belittled. You'll get like ridiculed in Japanese, like, oh, here comes here come the fucking gaijins, and like, oh no, we're gonna wipe now, sort of thing. And then you will get vote kits.
So you're saying that as like a definite, always, no matter what.
Like 90% of the time.
That is only gonna happen if so our party finder, because we're on a JP server, a lot of it's in Japanese, and this is an issue specifically to the Elemental data center because it is where the Australians play. But the party finders that are in Japanese will often say JP only. If you go into that party and you start talking in English, that's when what Ethys is saying is going to happen. If you queue into something in the duty finder, they're not going to vote kick you.
No, they're not going to vote kick you in duty finder.
No, it's only if you join the parties where they're specifically like, this is a JP only group.
But if you do that, you don't even need to say anything. Like
exactly.
They will look you up and they will kick you and blacklist.
I haven't had that happen before.
Well, really? You put in your description.
I've joined JP only groups and just don't say anything, and then the macro gets posted and I just pick my point and that's it. Like I've done that before and I haven't been kicked. But
well, I mean, if you put in your character description, like just make it Japanese and just try to like make it look like a Japanese player profile and everything.
There are a few people that do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or just Google Translate. It's great.
Right. So, I mean, I've had the chance to talk to a couple of players who play on Japanese servers and everything else, and kind of, I brought this up as a topic, and this was a long time ago. Maybe things have changed. I don't know. But it was always like they didn't want to deal with it because, why they put up parties that say JP only, not because, if they bully you when you get in, they're just an asshole anyways. But I mean, like, if they put JP only, it's because they're too embarrassed to try to deal with an English or try to type in English and everything else, and they just don't want to deal with the thought of that stress of working with two different languages or anything else.
Right, but if it was stress and embarrassment, then you wouldn't think you would see so often people calling you a gaijin.
I think it's more just the fact that it's a Japanese server. Like,
you get that
specifically a Japanese data center, and then there's a bunch of English players playing on there. Like, it's really not fair on them either, because like they just want to play with their fellow Japanese players or whatever. Like, it's not fair on them either that we have like. But at the same time, like, we have the shorter straw than they do. Like, they're in a better situation. But at the same time, I do feel a bit bad for them sometimes, because they shouldn't have to deal with that. But.
This can be kind of related to, and you've spent some time on European servers, Harry. They have lots of different language barriers all over the place, and I mean, it all kind of becomes English at some point. But you know, Moogle's like a French server, and so some Europeans actually have frustrations, and they'll voice out stuff against French players. And almost something that sounds similar to what you guys are talking about right now.
I've seen that a lot on EU,
And so I'm wondering if that's the only real relation. If you're from EU, maybe you have that same perspective. That's how JP players are maybe treat Australian and New Zealand players. So,
well, I mean, overall, Japanese skill level is very high when it comes to the games, and then sometimes Australian skill level is not as high. So I think there is probably a bit of that going on as well. But
there's definitely an attitude of like, you know, the JP players are better than everyone else. Like, if you're not Japanese, you shouldn't be playing on the JP service because you're not good enough.
Okay.
Well, it's like back when in A Realm Reborn and all that, when there wasn't as many English-speaking players on Elemental, you would queue into something in the Duty Finder, and the first thing you would do is you would open up your party list, and you would see how many of the players are Japanese. And if you were like 7 of the players were Japanese and you were the English player, you're like, yeah, we're going to clear. But if it was like 4 English players for a Japanese, we're like, yeah, no, we're screwed. Like, we're not clearing this today. Like, that was A Realm Reborn, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
That was A Realm Reborn. It started to change over time, but like, it was very true in the early days, especially before the ping change, like the server tick adjustments.
Okay. So how did Tonberry become like the place everybody went to? Is there any real reason or rhyme, or it just happened?
It's just on the forums. It just kind of became, someone just designated it on the official forums, and so people started flocking there. And now it's like eternally congested because there's just so many people there.
Yeah, Tonberry was kind of just like a word of mouth thing, because as Australians, again, we're sort of used to this, like, not having Australian servers and having to ask, like, oh, okay, so which world do the Australians play on? Where do we go? I mean, there's small like Australian communities on like a lot of the NA and EU worlds, but basically for the purpose of ping and everything, like Tonberry was the one that we sort of collectively decided on. And that got capped, and we started spilling over to Kujata. So now it's like Tonberry and Kujata are basically the unofficial Australian servers.
And Kujata is now the 2nd largest server on Elemental, I'm pretty sure. So like, it's just, and then when Kujata fills up, like, we're just gonna eventually, Elemental is just gonna be ours if we just keep going.
The takeover. I kind of want to know. Maybe you don't have the perspective of it, but how has the JP reaction been to taking over kind of Tonberry and going into maybe Kujata as well?
Well, I mean, Tonberry is only English players now. Like, you never see really Japanese players on Tonberry anymore.
We didn't like push him out. Tonberry's basically been out since the beginning of ARR.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Kujata, when Tonberry filled up and we kind of started spilling over into Kujata, it was predominantly a Japanese server. But now it's like, I'd say it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Like, to be fair, like when Elemental when more and more English players did start playing on Elemental, a lot of Japanese players just moved to like Mana or Gaia. They just moved to the other JP data centers because there isn't really English players on those.
Okay.
But
so I guess it just, it's something people are like, well, maybe I'll just transfer that. No big deal's ever really made. They just go to a different server if they really want to, and it's done, right?
I mean, it's hard to know what the JP community thinks
because they don't talk
about
to you.
because they don't talk to us.
They do tell us occasionally, like, what the fuck are you doing on our servers? Like, go back to NA or whatever. But for the most part, we don't really know.
Ethys makes them sound so horrible.
They do that. It happens from time to time. I have distinct memories. Like, it doesn't happen often, but I have really clear and distinct memories of like Japanese players like getting into Google Translate or whatever and basically just berating me, telling me like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, this is JP.
Oh my God. I've never had this happen ever.
Really?
No, never.
I don't know why.
I've talked at this a handful of times about it, and this is like his opinion completely, and I'm like, holy shit, this is pretty strong. So I don't know, maybe
it doesn't happen every day, it doesn't happen every week.
Right.
But like when you get a couple of these experiences, it's just so unpleasant and so jarring that it sticks with you, you know?
Maybe Ethys is just kind of toxic.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. He's probably like getting in there. He's like, haha, fucking idiots. Like as soon as he gets in there. It's
Exactly. He's probably going in there using Google Translate, telling them all to, I don't know.
Probably just declaring myself as an Australian and being like, coming after your server.
Australia #1, just spamming that in chat or something. Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Yeah, JP sucks.
Get off my server.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, I mean, do you guys think that interaction will ever improve in any way, or has it been improving, or is that it's just the way it is?
It'll improve when we get our own data center.
God damn.
But okay, are we going into the data center talk now? Because
we can if you guys want to. Yeah.
That is like a massive can of stuff to talk about. This
is not just something that happens in 14. This is something that happens across all kinds of games. Japanese gaming culture is very elitist and xenophobic. It just is.
See, Harry's not going to respond to it. He's just going
to Japanese culture, like at its core, in so many ways, is elitist and xenophobic.
I'll agree with that.
They don't like playing with other people. They don't like having to, communicate with anyone that's not Japanese. And if they do so, it's more often than not in a very kind of abrasive way.
I would say xenophobic 110%. Elitist, I don't know about. I haven't encountered much of that. But then a lot of the negative things that Ethys is saying about JP players, I haven't experienced at all, really. So yeah, I've had mostly all positive experiences with JP players, to be honest.
That's crazy. So I'll have my own personal experiences just with the world race and everything else, but that's like a little tiny niche kind of thing where I have a lot of Japanese teams that report their times and they communicate, and I've had JP teams on the show where I've talked to them and players coming on, and we've had these discussions, and I brought someone on to translate and made it work, and it was always good conversations and everything. But I have also had interactions with the world race where people will be like, yeah, I claim that I cleared it first before everyone else, and I'll post their time and screenshots and everything else, and refuse to interact with me. Absolutely refuse to interact with me in any way to kind of just say, yeah, no, we have a team. Nope, my team name is, I don't have one. I'm not telling you anything. We are completely cutting off any communication towards the world race and everything else. I just want everyone to know I did it. And the point is, they're like, oh, well, we were just doing it because we wanted to do it. We don't really care that much and everything else. I'm like, that's fine. I'm just trying to track stuff and trying to keep it, this is something that we do in the community. It's like, okay, I don't care. I mean, and that's kind of the the interaction I've had, but that's only a handful of teams that are like that. There's a lot of teams that are out there and they pay attention and they watch the race and they are interactive and kind and everything.
Yeah.
So it's weird. And it's always weird to me when I talk to Ethys again about it, because he always has the worst interactions compared to everyone else.
Well, I think it's a bit of a cultural thing, is there is a little bit of dehumanizing when it comes to it. Or like, they don't, like, I think a really good way to explain that in terms of Final Fantasy 14 is if you join a group with JP, Duty Finder, Party Finder, words aren't actually generally exchanged much. It's just macros and stuff like that. But it's 3 wipes, disband. And that is just, there's no speaking. There's no, I'm raging at this player, I'm raging at that player. It's just 3 wipes, disband, no one says a word. There's this level of like,
there's no banter, there's no like,
yeah, there's this level of like, well, no, this is just how it is, and we're not going to even bother talking about it, kind of thing.
So, I mean, I guess to bring that into the real world, and you're driving a car somewhere and someone cuts you off, you're like, fuck this guy, I hate him, he's the worst person in the world. Something might have gone on to where they cut you off and they didn't mean to, and it could have been like a nice person who donates tons of money to like charities and everything else, and is like living on the street just trying to help other people, but he cut you off, so fuck this guy, right? And so that might be the same kind of situation, is that you don't think of the cars as people, you think of them as, you know, objects that are interfering with you getting to where you need to go.
I mean, that JP culture works well with me because I just I don't want to have to tell people that they're shit. I just want 3 wipes, go, bye. I never have to interact with that person ever again. Okay. Like, for me, I like that.
It's
but
depressing sometimes.
It's great. It's fantastic. But it's not for everyone, that's for sure. So
okay. So let's talk a little bit about the other communities real quick before we get, maybe we can talk about that before we talk about the dating. But like with NA and EU, you guys get along pretty well, right? With these communities, they're just kind of part of the community that you've been involved with because they also speak English and they.
It's so weird when you go to NA or something and everyone's speaking in English. Like you do like a 24-man and like the chat is active and you're like, what is going on? Like people are talking to each other. like this just doesn't happen on JP. They just don't. No one talks to each other.
Actually, that I didn't think about that. Ethys, would you say that's pretty much the same? Like when you play on JP servers, you don't see a lot of communication, but when you play on NAEU, you see lots of it.
Yeah, well, when I play on NAEU, like I'll get people recognizing me and saying hi and like wanting to chat and stuff like that. But like, yeah, when you're playing on JP, it's like you might as well, like for the kind of social thing, when you're just doing like random like duty finder content, you might as well just be playing with bots.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's just also because like again, it comes down to that like agreed upon strat, like 24-mans. We don't even say what the strat is. Everyone just knows that Alliance A does that, Alliance B does this, and Alliance C does that. Like there isn't even words exchanged that's how it works. Whereas on you go to play on NA or EU and it's not even agreed on who is the main tank.
Yeah, like, people are just angry and yelling at each other, and
everyone's just fighting for aggro, and you're just like, to be fair, it's a lot of fun. Like the first time I did a 24-man on NA, I was like, this is hilarious. I'm having so much fun just watching everything crumble into fire. Like it was fantastic. But it's just
it's really just, like evil almost, but good. Yeah,
it's just such a different community for sure.
Okay,
when it comes to NA and EU, yeah.
I'm gonna relate a little bit to that because I did. You guys have traveled a good bit, but a recent one that I did once was to Ukraine, and that's the one time that I actually traveled somewhere where I was going there, but I wasn't meeting with another group of people who spoke English. I was going there, and it was really just interacting with people from Ukraine. And you know, everyone spoke a completely different language and had to kind of force himself to speak English to me, to talk to me. So the entire time I felt like when people were talking, it doesn't register in my head. I don't know what they're saying. I don't understand the interactions. I just know there's tones and things are happening. And so I'm going through this whole community. I'm like, well, it feels quiet and calm and weird because it's just me. No one else there. I'm really interacting. I know there are people and there everything else, but it's not it's not something that registers to me as much. And then when I come back to America and I start hearing people speak English, it's just like this weird feeling of like, hey, I'm somewhere that's familiar and I'm back to the world almost. It's strange. I don't know if I could relate that to your experience playing on NA and EU servers versus JP servers, but that was just me traveling to a foreign country.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like on the occasions where you're in a party that is like interacting and like discussing something in Japanese, you're just kind of sitting there like,
But I think
hoping
it's,
you don't get found out, hoping they don't like ask you a direct question because
you're just like,
because if they do, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But I think it's also that like that's what we're used to.
Mhm.
So like with 14 specifically, we're used to not being able to interact, so it's not strange.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's more strange, like I was saying, like it's more strange when I go somewhere else and I can interact. Like that was weird.
Yeah.
Like I was actually, when I was on EU, I was uncomfortable because I was like, do I actually ask the healer if they want to do big pulls or do I just do them? Like I just like it was just, I've actually had a bit of anxiety when it came to like talking to people. But yeah, so it's just like that's what we're used to. But I understand what you're saying though, because like when I was in Europe, because I was there for a year, and it's that situation where language barrier is a thing no matter where you go, because English is usually the second language, and then you've got people hanging out from, I don't know, Dutch people, German people, all sorts of things. So I understand that feeling very well.
I kind of, to be honest, and take this out of the Final Fantasy 14 sphere again, I kind of wish English wasn't the main language everywhere, so I was kind of required and forced to learn more than English. So right now, I've done a handful of classes in Mandarin. I've done, of course, classes in Spanish, but that stuff doesn't really stick with me, and I can't really have heavy conversations with it because it just falls out of I don't know, I forget it. I start to forget these languages because I'm not forced to use it anywhere, and I wish I was, so I could pick up these languages a little bit more, but I don't know.
If you're not using it, if you're just learning it in the classroom and you're not using it, you're never gonna be speaking it properly or like be able to have full conversations. You need to immerse yourself in a language if you're gonna learn it. So
Anyways,
are you saying that we should all just learn Japanese, Frosty? Like
we should all just we should just
I got
adjust.
fucking 2 books over there for Japanese that I need to pick up and start doing something with. But I've also, that's probably going to be next year because I'm already doing my part of extra learning by taking 5 courses right now with college again and working full time. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing my part of extra learning and taking myself to the next level. I'll get to that later. Duolingo Al misses me. Oh, I'm sure he does. Okay, so going back to data centers and everything else, if you guys had your own data center, it would be pretty great, right? But do you think it justifies, the community in Australia justifies having a data center? Yeah?
Yeah. The thing is, okay, so there are 2 attitudes when it comes to like making an Australian server for a game. Number one is, hey, if we make an Australian server, then Australian players will play the fucking game. Okay. How about that? Wouldn't that be crazy? Even now, the number of Australian players are like, why would I play 14? WoW's got Australian servers. Why would I put myself through that? And trying to explain to them that it's not WoW and like they should give it a try and all this. It's just like, when that's like the one and only, and for a lot of Australians that is like the one thing. It's like they pick a genre. Okay, this is the kind of game I want to play. What's got an Australian server? What can I play with low latency? What can I play with like local players? And that is it. So attitude one is if you build it, people will come. Attitude 2, which is the Square Enix attitude, is like, okay, we will build a data center for people once they've demonstrated that there's enough numbers already. And it's far more conservative. As very much this attitude of we will not get it until we have enough people to basically fill it.
It's like a low risk idea about it.
And it comes from this, I think, this complete misunderstanding in a lot of ways of Australia as a market, the size of it, the amount of people that play games here and the amount of money that we actually spend on games here. And that unwillingness to take the risk sort of, I feel like stems from this attitude that, well, Australia is just like another, you know, small European country or something. Like, why would we make an Australian data center? We don't make, you know, we don't make like a German data center. We don't make a, that's not a good example, but you know
Okay.
what?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like the oceanic one's the Japanese one's close enough. Like, whatever, it's only 200 ping. It'll be fine. Like, there's not that many of them anyway. That sort of attitude.
Okay. So, go ahead, Harry.
My view on it is a bit different when it comes to the community, because the ANZ community, gaming community in general, has been punished for so long that we now don't know what's good for us anymore. And we're so used to playing on American servers or on European servers that it's been shown that even when other games like World of Warcraft, even when they add an oceanic server, there's lots of Australian players that still don't play on it because all of their friends are on NA, all of their friends are on EU. So a lot of players don't actually go to the oceanic servers, and you see it like with WoW, the oceanic servers are actually connected to NA because there's not enough players on the oceanic servers. So it just they're merged, like they're kind of like the same. And it's it was shown when MapleStory went and added oceanic servers, and then the same thing happened. A lot of Australian players didn't come and play on the oceanic servers. They were playing on the others because they wanted to play with more people, because there wasn't enough people on the oceanic server. But the problem with that is the reason why the oceanic server doesn't have enough people is because they're all playing on the other servers because there's more people there. And that's shown to happen over and over again. And I think it comes back to that point of we're so used to not having our own community. We don't know how to have our own community.
Right. And when we're given our own server, we don't believe it. We're like,
yeah,
no one's going to play on that. No.
We actually did a poll. It's quite an old poll now, but we did a poll. I think it was just after, I think it was not long after Stormblood came out. We did a poll with our little our Facebook group. At the time, I think it probably had around 3,000 members or so.
Yeah,
it was like 60 to 70% of people said that they would not move to an oceanic data center if they made one. That they would stay on JP or they would stay on NA. So it's really tricky when it comes to giving the Australian community a data center, because we've just never had it really when it comes to our community in general.
The core of that poll, when we dug into it, was more like, I will move if my friends move.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to commit to moving until I know that my friends are going to move. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to be like the first adopter of this new data center until I know that's going to be populated and know my friends are going to be.
Yeah.
So you need to motivate Australian players to populate it again, because we're so cautious. We're so used to like not getting nice things. If they made an Australian data center, they'd have to incentivize it for us. They'd have to be like, and not even just like a free transfer. They'd have to like give us something.
The only way that I see it working is if they literally decide to take Tonberry and Kujata, like the existing
and just
servers, and make them the oceanic data center. Like, I think if they make the oceanic data center and make all new servers and people transfer over to them, I honestly just don't think that's going to work. They need to forcibly move us if they want it to work. That's what I think.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if that would be a possible solution. But I mean, that also brings up the issue, right? That if you do that and you're separating two servers onto a separate data center, all this cross data center stuff that happens, you're cut off from those communities now. And it's just those two servers. Do you think that would be big enough of an issue where people might still not want to go there and they'd rather be on a JP server, so these cross data center stuff could still exist?
I think that between Australia, New Zealand, the rest of the oceanic region, we would have enough population to support a data center. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
And I think that the first 6 months of that data center being built with like appropriate marketing push and like influencer relations and stuff in the region, they would have absolutely no trouble filling it.
Do you think the game could grow enough just by having that and pushing for Australian players to try Final Fantasy 14?
Plenty of other games have done the same sort of thing that have like healthy burgeoning oceanic servers.
Okay. And they would probably have to do this at the start of like an expansion, I would assume, as well. Like when you have this boom of people coming out and they're like, oh, I want to try this new game. It's getting in this new expansion and everything else, and just time that all properly.
Definitely would be the best time to do it, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, we got enough people on our Facebook group alone to fill a whole world.
Okay. Yeah. But then you would need more to make that cross data center stuff to really work.
Well,
of course. It's just so tough with getting people on it. That's the thing. Like, you got so many players on NA that are like, no, I'm staying on NA because all my friends are on NA. Like, and it's not because all my Australian friends are on NA. It's all of my American friends are on NA. So I'm going to stay on NA.
That's true.
And stuff like that. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. Like the Oceanic servers on MapleStory 2 died. Like they just didn't end up taking off at all because of that same reason. So like, as much as I would love an Australian data center, and I really hope we do get it, I have my doubts. That's all.
Well, unlike MapleStory, I think like 14 is not a new game, and it already has a really strong, established, and now relatively centralized Australia-New Zealand community.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. It's just getting them onto an Oceanic server, I think, is where the difficulty lies.
And when we talk about an Oceanic server, we're talking about other countries than just Australia and New Zealand, right? We're talking about
Southeast Asia.
We're talking about like Singapore, Thailand, Pacific Islands, like everywhere within the region. But normally Oceanic servers, they will be like physically situated either in Singapore or in Sydney, generally.
Okay. Do you think that if they do something like that, and maybe this would help in like EU region and other places as well, is that they would dedicate it like a declared official language of the server or something that might help the community a little bit. And while you're playing with people from Singapore and everything else, they have maybe servers that are dedicated to their language and they don't have to guess of where they need to go and everything. I know that's a big issue in EU because people start the game. How the fuck do you know this is the French server? How do you know this is a German server? You have to ask around, and you never played this game before. You have to hope you have some roots already there, people who do have roots to kind of direct you in the right place. So do you think that could be a positive thing, or would that overall be negative because it's too much segregation there?
I think it would get confusing because now everything is cross data center. So like people would join a server, and the people they'd be interacting with as they walk around the world might speak their language, but every time they do anything in Duty Finder or Party Finder, there's going to be people of all languages anyway. I mean, when it comes to our community specifically, when it comes to like Singapore players and all that, they tend to speak having their English skills tend to be fine.
Oh, okay.
At least I have encountered that like they can speak enough English to get along and communicate with us.
And I don't know if you guys are the right people to ask this question, but Oceanic overall, are you guys used to being kind of clumped together? So all these different countries, you're used to this interaction and everything. So
it's very common.
Yeah, my first few statics were all Singapore players, and I was the only Australian. Like we're used to playing all together, I think. So
okay, that's fair enough. So the thing is, there should be an Oceanic data center, but there has to be a right way to make it happen. Harry might be a little bit hesitant, but they're definitely you're in support of it.
Oh yeah, I might be hesitant, but I would back it 100%. I would move to it immediately, and I would do everything in my power to
shout in the streets, like walk down like Sydney and just say, "Go play Final Fantasy 14 on this data center."
Exactly.
Just like yell it. Yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
It's pretty much what we do already.
Yeah. Except it's with the Facebook group. If you're not in the unofficial Facebook group and you're from Australia, New Zealand, if you Google FFXIV ANZ, it's the first thing that comes up. So,
We've
Little
also
plug.
yeah, no, it's a perfect plug. That's why the show's here. Plug this shit. Anyways, let's talk. You guys talked a little bit about ping. We talked a little bit about it, enough to where we can kind of have the conversation that you guys probably right now with no data center, you'd preferably time zone wise you'd play on the Japanese data centers, but I guess ping wise you'd probably play on NA servers.
Well, ping wise, JP's.
Yeah. Oh, JP's about the same?
Yeah, it's much, no, it's much better. It's much
JP's closer. Still much better than NA?
But between NA and EU, NA is definitely going to be better.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
But EU,
after
never.
No, it's horrid. Even with a VPN, absolutely horrid with EU. Yeah. But like now that the NA servers are on West Coast, it's really it's almost same for us to play on JP as it is to play on American now.
There's a lot more packet loss for NA, just because of like crossing like that amount of ocean in like one sort of uninterrupted line.
Yeah.
But the ping's not like massively different. But like the JP on a good day, on like a really really good day, if you get really really lucky, you might like raid and feel like, oh, that was a little bit weird. That was a little bit like unresponsive. Oh shit, I didn't have my VPN on. Oh. Okay, I guess I got lucky. Didn't get any DCs there. That's cool.
Okay.
But like trying to raid on NA from Australia and New Zealand, like you just will not be able to do it without.
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay.
So without a VPN.
No, without a VPN.
Yeah. Okay,
just because of the packet loss, it's just like it's not even worth trying.
Okay.
Yeah, with a VPN, I have heaps of friends that raid on NA without.
Oh yeah.
It's the ping. Some people are saying in chat even. So for some people, the ping to NA is actually better. Like I've experienced that quite a lot. So it's just about. Sorry, 1 second.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
No, Harry's right though. Like it is definitely like viable to raid on NA.
I don't know.
From Australia, provided you got a VPN. If you don't, right out. And like trying to play on EU, even with a VPN, like, well, Harry, you got a little bit of experience trying to play like from Australia to EU, right?
Yeah. So like when I moved here, when I moved back from Europe, I tried to play on the European servers from Australia, and it was just I couldn't. Like I was like when I moved, I was leveling Dancer, and I got used to like because when you do your dances and the next button lights up and you press the next button and it's all nice and fluid and wonderful. And then I came here and I tried to do it and you would dance and then the global would be like 3/4 done before the next dance step would light up. Like, so I was like, bang, like watching it super close to try and get it each time. It was really, really horrible. I just couldn't. So I ended up moving back to JP because it was just...
Okay.
I couldn't do it.
Ethys, you're gonna have to be dealing with that soon too. And your decisions on where your characters are. Yeah.
Basically, I'm gonna have to decide whether I can put up with that or not.
I think you'll end up going to EU, but that's what I think. You might play on NA maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But I'm gonna try a couple of raid nights and like see how I go, see if I can get away with it.
Yeah.
I guess that's the other thing to talk about too, is that like you have to uproot yourself if you're going to go to a different data center and everything else. Right now at this point, we're so dug into where we are. I guess it's like if someone came to me and was like, "Hey, you need to go play on a different data center." Actually, to be honest with you, I'm not really that dug in. I probably got to. I don't care. But I mean, a lot of people are.
For most people, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are, and I think and ping wise and connectivity wise, you can still make it happen with a VPN. You can make things happen and feel like you're playing Final Fantasy 14, and in that it's not awkward and too weird. Sfia on who would have been on the show today could talk about that in his world racing that he does, where he does his team is very dependent on going quickly and not making mistakes, and he plays Black Mage a good bit as well. But he does well enough to be able to win world races, or at least place very highly in the most recent races. So I think that it's not bad. It's still there, and I don't know. Is that hard to convince Australian players that it's not that bad that aren't playing Final Fantasy 14?
Massively.
Yeah,
They'll want
because their experience of it is playing it at a convention or playing it, like booting it up with the trial, and they're not going to invest in a VPN for the trial. They're just going to play it. And so they're just like, this is terrible. But when you have a VPN, it's totally doable. As shown with like Sfia doing World Prog, like if you have a VPN and you have a stable connection of around 100 ping, 110, you can do everything and play 100% optimally. You just have to know what your ping is and know what your limitation is. Like, it took me a while when I moved over to EU. I was actually a worse player for a little while because I was moving before my cast was finished, and it was canceling my casts on my healer because I'm used to being able to move like a good second before my cast finishes. Whereas on EU, I had to wait until the cast was like almost done before I moved. It's just being used to your ping.
It's
like
that handicap.
Yeah, like I'm sure if you were sitting behind Sfia watching him play Black Mage, and if he needed to move, you would see him moving probably well before his cast is finished. Because he knows when he can move with his ping, stuff
but
like that.
You can't say that to a new player. You can't be like trying to sell
of course,
going on Final Fantasy 14. They'd be like, oh, what's the ping like? You're like, well, it's shit, but like you get used to it and you just move early.
Yeah.
And then it's great.
And they're just like, yeah, that doesn't sound fun. So
well, I mean, so when you were at the event, you had people playing on a non-VPN server and everything else.
Yeah.
Did that go over okay?
Yeah, for the most part, but like you would be watching over people's shoulders playing E1 and seeing like those line AoEs, and they would be way out of it and then get deleted, and they'd just be like, what the fuck was that? And you just have to be like,
and we'd be like shoutcasting it and be like, oh, it looks like they're set. Okay, they're being hit by that now. Like, it was just you had to wait until you saw, because and I had people coming up afterwards being like, oh man, it's so weird.
Did you give them pity t-shirts
and stuff?
No
pity shirts. They had to win.
The clear rate was actually really good. The clear rate was over 90%.
It was 89%.
Yeah, so people did all right considering.
Right. All right. So I guess we should talk a little bit about the relationship that Australia has with Square Enix and everything as well. You guys are very familiar with that through your own stuff and everything else. You mentioned a couple times you think it's kind of improving from where it was. And...
hugely. Yeah,
110%.
Okay. Is it in a pretty good spot?
Yeah, I think so. It's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
So what we've had since the launch of the game, there's basically a private PR firm here that has handled everything Final Fantasy 14 related, PR, marketing, influencer relations,
a whole lot.
And for the most part, they've just kind of been like left to their own devices. They got a budget. They just do whatever they want with it, and it's good. And like they've kind of been building up the community here, and it's been fine. The last, I'd say, since 2016, the EU community and the EU like community team and office, and presumably like in Japan as well, they've started to notice that the community here is sort of like growing and becoming more centralized, particularly around this Facebook group. That we're getting like more and more interaction with the EU community team, which is really, really cool. And I think they recently hired from EU, like he's working out of London, but someone like specifically to help oversee marketing for the game in our region. Okay. So it's like little by little, they're starting to like invest a little bit more and like build a little bit more into the region for the game, which is really cool to see for us, because like we put a lot of, time and effort and energy into like trying to help this community sort of like grow and flourish in Australia. And we're like slowly starting to see that pay off.
Yeah. You don't doubt the Facebook groups. I'm not part of them, but those Facebook groups do a lot of work for the community.
That really is the only reason we have anything at this point. Like, and they've kind of said that to us, not like super explicitly, but they have kind of said that it is because of, you know, this coming together of players that we have pretty much anything that we do now. It's I mean, it's the people that were running that got us the booths at the PAXs.
And this is volunteers, by the way. This is like a handful of volunteer admins, and basically they're doing the work of like a community rep. But they're doing it unofficially, and they're doing it like, you know, in the evenings and not getting paid for it. And
that's the thing that we do need, though, is we like the next step before we even get a data center is that we need an official we need an actual community team for our region to drum everything up before we get a data center.
And that's before the subscription pay change too, right? Or is that like second step?
Let's get that first. Let's get that sorted first, please.
Okay.
I want to play. I want to pay for my sub in Australian currency. Come on.
But no, we do have a handful of guys that have literally been working like full-time hours for the last 5 years for nothing, just to build up the Final Fantasy XIV community in Australia. And it's like because of them that we're starting to get all this nice stuff, which is just
it's just paying off slowly.
Yeah.
Well, and you can see that with PAX, the amount of actual Square Enix reps that we had and things like that.
That's awesome.
Things are happening. Things are happening.
Yeah, I think that actually is a good description for a lot of the people in the Final Fantasy XIV community. There's a lot of people out there that you don't see behind the scenes doing a shitload of work just because they want a healthy and happy community for a game that they love. So definitely kudos to them for that. And for you guys who, of course, support the community, right, for Australia and New Zealand. Except for, I guess Ethys is maybe resigning or something. I don't know what he's doing.
I'm not resigning.
He's being kicked off the island.
Jeez. Yeah, that's right. I've been voted off.
Oh, gee. Okay. So, and I had the other thought that was in my head that left because I'm brainless. But no, okay. So, PAX, you guys were talking about how you had a fan gathering as well. With the gathering, was there a lot of people there?
Yeah, it was packed. Like it was at capacity, and we had to turn like hundreds of people away from the door just because it was full. Yeah. We had an open bar for everyone there, paid by Square Enix, which is pretty
so
sweet.
Many giveaways. There was so much merch.
Yeah, we had a bunch of merch, and
it was an awesome night. And everyone that came along was just saying how fantastic it was and how grateful they were. And it was a fantastic night.
There's lots of drinking and just conversating and
it's crazy because like the first one of these we did, I think it was in 2014, and it was just like at a local pub in Sydney, and there were like maybe 4 people there. Yeah. and this is the same people, this is the same group, this is the same sort of like community, I guess, that has gone from that to nearly 6,000 members in this Facebook group, having official Square Enix endorsement and official Square Enix bar tab, and you know, hundreds of people packed into this venue with, you know, lots of like official giveaways and the whole like European community team there and everything. Yeah. And that's just in the spans of like 5 years, kind of like the fact that that's built up has been so cool to watch.
Yeah. And they're telling us that they want to do more fan gatherings and they'd like to come back for future PAXs and stuff. And so things are happening. But like they really are. Like it's awesome to see, and it's so exciting, and especially for those people that have been putting in the full-time work for such a long time, not getting any recognition, and it's all coming up for them now. So it's exciting. And then more influencer kind of relation stuff too. Like they're talking with us more and asking us more questions as well about, you know, what do you think that the community needs? What do you think we should be doing to help you guys? Like they're starting to interact with us, which is a huge positive.
Well, I don't know about you when you started, Harry, but like back in like 2015, 2016, like As like an Australian Final Fantasy 14 influencer, I felt like pretty much invisible.
Oh yeah, I got basically no contact for anything. I went to my first 2 fan fests, and I paid for a normal ticket. I did everything just the normal standard way because there was no one. I didn't feel like there was anyone I could reach out to ask and say, can I maybe get a media pass? Like,
right.
And I was busy pursuing like all the North American contacts and that sort of route of things, just because there was no sort of strong official like Final Fantasy 14 representation in Australia, and was like, well, who the fuck do I even work with?
Yeah.
But that's changing as well, which is really cool.
It is. Yeah, they're getting a lot better with it, and yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm glad things are looking up. And my interactions with various, I have talked to a handful of Square Enix teams and everything, and it's been pretty good. They've been pretty awesome with the community so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Definitely.
so, seeing how this is pushing forward, and with all the crazy popularity of Shadowbringers, they just have to hold on, right? They have to hold on to all the great things that came from this expansion, build off of it until the next expansion, and then grow from there. And it would be crazy to see where that next step is, if they can manage to make a step higher than where they are right now. Because are you guys, just a little off topic, it feels almost peakish right now with Shadowbringers. Are you kind of afraid of that?
I feel like nearly every expansion has felt that way though. Like Heavenswood came out and we were like, oh my god, this story is amazing. The world is amazing. We're flying, like holy shit. And then I feel like we get a bit of that feeling every time. Although Shadowbringers, it's definitely been a bit more extreme because it has been such an excellent game, not just from the community but critic wise as well.
But you're right, like every launch has been like that. Like every expansion launch since ARO has been like, the game cannot get bigger than this. Like this is it, baby.
Yeah.
Well,
and it just gets bigger.
Well, Stormblood had its kind of, was not as high for as Heavensward was for me. Like I wasn't like, wow, this is the next step. Like Shadowbringers, I'm like, holy crap.
Maybe not for like our sort of dedicated player base, but like for the numbers.
Okay, that's fair.
It's just kept growing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Stormblood was great. It just because the launch was riddled with so many issues. I think that's what really brought the hype down for a lot of people. Whereas the Shadowbringers launch was just so ridiculously smooth. It was insane. There was like hardly any queues. Like there was queues, but you weren't like, even on launch day there were queues, but you weren't waiting for like ever and ever and ever and ever. You were still you were able to play. And there was no Railbound Extreme. Like
that was the biggest thing. I think that was the biggest thing. Not having that bottleneck, because that was the worst bottleneck they could probably have in Stormflood. It was sad to see that happen.
But they learned their lesson, apparently.
It's good. It's good. If you see evidence a game company's learning about something, it's good, right? We don't see that too often. But that means
that's sad.
I don't know. You see companies and they do make horrible decisions and they don't know what to do about repairing those situations. We won't get into it. It was just
topic for another show.
That's a whole other show that we could do. And so at this point, I kind of had a question for Sfia about talking about his experience with the world race from New Zealand and everything else. But it doesn't seem like there's a good point to go into that right now. We'll just leave that for if he does well in Ultimate, then he can come on and talk about it. All right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a handicap. Like you can expect, I'd say for world race, like you could expect just being Australian and having to deal with, the couple of disconnects and packet loss issues and stuff. You could expect like a couple of hours added onto your prog just from that.
Yeah.
Well, it is a very clear and distinct handicap. And there's a lot of Australians that are in the world race. A lot of Australians and New Zealanders are in the world race. Like a bunch of them. I think for what was it? So for AlphaScape, I think the world third or world fourth was mostly Australians.
Yeah, and so I'd have to go back and look at. I'm actually going through, by the way, on that topic of the world race and everything. I finally got some stuff working that I wasn't able to before because I wasn't as experienced with web development. And so I've gone back to this website that's been half dead, and I'm updating a few things, and I'm going through all these different clears and putting them into a database that the site reads. And making it into a better situation. And so I'm seeing all these clears again. And I remember one of the most recent ones with Eden's Gate, there was a lot of teams that came up and they're like, yeah, we're an Australian team.
Yeah.
Not a Japanese team, an Australian team. And I'm like, well, do I start separating these teams into Australian teams? Yes. Okay. But that's difficult though, right? I mean,
it's difficult, but you gotta support us, Frosty. You gotta be on our team here, all right?
But then I gotta
make it happen.
Then I gotta put a special tag next to it, right? That says ASU, AUS.
You're damn right you have to put.
Damn right you do. You can whip out your web development skills, all right? Okay. Have a little Australian tag or ANZ tag or oceanic tag.
Hell yeah.
Okay, I'll figure it out because I mean, not everyone on Tonberry. I mean, most likely for the world race, if you're on Tonberry, and you turn in a world race thing, you're probably from Australia. I would say there's not a lot of Japanese groups probably doing a world race from Tonberry. Maybe. I don't know for sure, but there are a handful of them that come over and they want to be declared as that, and I think that's actually kind of cool because you want to have that kind of pride that this is, an Australian base.
So many, like even by like Yoshida has a couple of times like credited Japanese groups for clears, and we've just been over here being like,
yeah.
Fucking excuse me? Hi, hello.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like literally like 7 out of 8 or like 8 out of 8 Australian New Zealand groups, and Yoshida's been like, oh, congratulations to this Japanese group that did this thing, and you're just like, all right, bro. Okay.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, gotcha. But yeah, and there's like apparently a group on or at least a forum post that usually gets put up where people are tracking Tonberry clears, and I think kind of how they're doing, and I've interacted with them a lot, and I think that it's awesome to see that, and I would, you know what, that's it, like this next race, if you're an Australian team, make sure I know, and I'll put something special on that line that makes sure it's signified that this is an Australian.
Hell yeah.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, good. But I was thinking about that because just before the show, I was updating that database and everything. I was seeing clears that I haven't been able to post up there, and it's really interesting. Going back to it again, man. Like I never thought I'd be a part of something that interacted with so many different countries at the same time. And it's weird to go back and think about it because I was just like, oh, it's kind of cool to see who's first here. Let me make a little list for it. And now it's a thing that people do every 3 months.
Yeah. And now that we're gonna have 3 ultimates, it really is gonna be.
There better be.
So,
right.
Well, they said it was a mistake to not do 3 last time, so it should be this time.
They didn't exactly say it was a mistake. They blamed the players for there not being 3 because they were saying.
Oh, really?
They said.
That's true. Yeah.
They said you guys said it was maybe too hard for me to clear. Maybe 3 would be too much for me, and I wouldn't be able to participate in all of them because it's so much work to clear it. I didn't hear it anywhere.
Speech about he gave this speech about how he was like worried about people's health. And it was you guys like nearly killed yourselves doing the last one, and like you need a break before the next one.
Right.
Like, you know what, Yoshida? Like, you're not my dad.
Yeah. Just make a good game, Yoshi. Don't worry about our health, all right? Just shut up and make a good game.
And develop.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And this one is going to be...
Same time, I should probably go outside.
Yeah. This one's going to be scary. Or at least, like, he's putting a lot of hype behind it, which is kind of... I don't know how to take it, because if it is really as difficult as they're saying it is, it's going to be... They're going to tone it down next one, no matter what. Because they said...
I think it'll be, like, UCUB, I think.
Well, they said if one team clears it, they're happy.
Yeah, but they were saying similar things about UCUB. Like, they were saying, like, we don't know if anyone's going to clear this. Like, it's going to be ridiculously hard. And, like, they were really hyping it up then as well. So I think it'll be similar difficulty to UCOB, yeah, because UWU was a little bit easier than UCOB was. Yeah. So, right. Yeah, I think they want to bring it back to that level.
And I would like to see it too, because UWU is really cool in concept of having this tricky puzzle and everything, but in the end, once people figure out puzzles like that, for example, if you go back to this tier, Leviathan's the easiest fight. No doubt. For me, Leviathan's the easiest fight because the puzzle's already figured out, and I just have to kind of AFK and do my movements. This never changes. I do the exact same movements every single time.
Yeah. There's no variation in there whatsoever. Except for Maelstrom, which is the one part where people do die.
It's like you have this or this. You do that or that. It's no...
Yeah. And Maelstrom, you can bait all those anyway because they're proximity.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to put this list up for questions. I don't know why I did it twice. But if you have any questions for the two people on the show, whether it's about Australia, New Zealand, why you didn't comb his hair, various things about the people on the show, feel free to ask, and then I will be happy to ask them. I don't know, what it could be that you might want to know about our wonderful guest. Or if you have a question for Sfia, I'll answer the question for Sfia. If you send one in and it's targeted towards Sfia, I will speak for him. That being said, I am also going to do a giveaway. Today's giveaway is going to be a virtual giveaway as well. It will be a Mog Station giveaway, so it's your typical kind of Final Fantasy XIV giveaway. Up to $25. You tell me one item that you want, up to $25, and I'll get with you after the show, and we'll work on getting that code to you.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we'll do that. We'll start that giveaway here in just a bit. Yes, Australians can enter the giveaway. Everyone, it doesn't matter where you live. Yeah.
No, the euro's too expensive. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But no, it's funny because it is expensive as shit to ship to outside the U.S. And then I got to put all this like special stuff in there, and I'm like, Mog Station, I can at least make that. I feel like that's a little bit more proper for this show, so we're gonna go forward with that. Let me see real quick. I feel like I had another question before we start getting into viewer questions as well, but I can't remember what it was. All right, I'm blanking out on it. I'm gonna go ahead and ask viewer question number 1. Have you met any hobbits? JK. How about more Great Deep of Ronka? What?
What about Great Serpent of Ronka?
It says Great Deep of Ronka. Great
Deep of Ronka. I gotta imagine that's a typo and someone's trying to ask about the Great Serpent of Ronka.
Yeah, okay.
It's not really an Australian question.
Yeah,
but,
not really.
The Great Serpent of Ronka has truly blessed us upon this day.
I have a physical one.
Mate.
I don't know what I've done.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what I've done with it, but I have a little plushie. I mean, the real Serpent of Ronka in my room somewhere.
The real, yeah, no, of course.
Definitely not a plushie.
You want to know something horrible that people might start to think of me less of? I haven't done that side quest.
Neither have I, actually.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, great show.
See you, Ethys. Bye.
Bye.
Well, Ethys, we know why you're here. We said it at the start of the podcast. It's because we're Australian. That's why we're here.
Yeah, you're Australians. I wouldn't bring you guys on for literally any other show. You're worthless outside of...
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
You're not here for lore, Ethys. You're here for being Australian.
Yeah. No, okay. Let's what's our keyword today, guys, for the giveaway?
ANZ.
ANZ, okay.
ANZ. All right. You're gonna love this. Oh, there's no. Yeah, enter the giveaway.
Bank.
Oh, seriously? And
ANZ. Wow.
But now people are typing it in wrong too. It's not.
Yeah, it's your fault.
You are a cretin.
Okay, let me ask another question. ANZED, because I wanted to be a cheeky piece of shit. Okay.
That's terrible.
Let's see, question here. Okay, this might be this relates a little bit to when we were talking about data centers and everything. With regards to SE's stance towards an oceanic server, does a South America Brazilian server land in the same situation?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure like what size the South American Brazilian population is in Final Fantasy 14. I have heard like a couple of people making some comments about this, but like I don't know anything about it. Like I don't know if you guys have got a similar sort of like centralized community, or whether you're just completely like assimilated into the North American community. I don't know, but I would say for any South American or Brazilian viewers, if you do want to move in the same direction, if you want Square Enix to notice you and start paying attention and maybe start moving towards getting like more, you know, South American specific things, you guys should try and move in a similar direction. Try and find where all the South American communities are, bring them together into one space with you know, one team, one community, and go from there. Basically, take the initiative, and Square Enix will notice.
Show them that you exist, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how. I mean, obviously, I have not played from there before, so I don't know what their ping is like. But is their ping really that bad?
Yeah, it is. It's really bad.
Right.
I have had that. It's really, really bad.
Yeah. I'm very unfamiliar with the communities. And, you know, I kind of feel bad about that now, too, because I don't normally think about the Brazilian and kind of South America communities with Final Fantasy 14, but I don't know how. I guess it is popular. I don't have any interaction with these communities ever.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly why that is. I feel like I should.
I suspect that it is a case of them being, again, like more like fractured and fragmented and like assimilated into the North American community than the Australian community is. And that's why I say it's really, really important to kind of like carve yourself out some distinction, take the initiative, and again, like 14 Square Enix, they will notice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put this in here again, and just to remind everyone, I am being an absolute troll, and it's ANZED. Type that in the chat, and make sure that you type that in so you can enter in this Mog Station giveaway for up to $25 that I will get with you after the show about. I was also going to call the show The Upside Down and make people think that they're coming in to talk about Stranger Things, and then have this also a semi-horrible pun about.
You have all the webcams upside down.
I gotta ask. Down. Like I try to be a little bit reserved with it sometimes, but then I'm like, how old and tired and annoyed are you by these same old Australian jokes that keep getting said over and over?
It's just that Americans like constantly demonstrate how little they know about Australia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my god!
Like you could make so many like good digs at Australians, but you just don't know fucking anything about our country or our culture.
It's true.
Or anything, and so it just comes to being upside down, and you give the little awkward laugh over it, and you're like, and move along.
Oh, this is the funny joke.
Upside down. Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Okay. So let's ask this next question. This is actually a pretty decent one here. Sorry if I missed it, but is there a non-Facebook group for Final Fantasy 14 AUNZ players like Twitter or Discord?
There is a Discord group. However, the invite is through the Facebook page. So if that is something that people are concerned about, that they don't use Facebook and they still want to kind of show their number themselves in the community, I can ask if there's a way for us to make that a bit more accessible. But I think currently it is all through the Facebook page. Yeah,
it's through the Facebook page because it's very, very like strictly moderated. Like it's a very like positive, wholesome, no trolling, no bullshit community. Every single application has a moderator go in and make sure that you're Australian. And basically there's no tolerance for any kind of crap. So it's not like most, community groups in that way. Like it's far more,
it's very well looked after, but it's not like a heavy police force kind of thing.
No.
You know, they're not like forcing you to think certain ways or
anything.
Oh,
you better not say kangaroo jokes. We'll break your legs, right?
It's just very like Final Fantasy 14 is, if it's not about Final Fantasy 14 in some way, they're not about it. Like they're more like they look after it really well.
Yeah.
And there's just why it is
there's no drama, no trolling, no discrimination or anything like that. It's just absolutely like no tolerance or anything like that. So everything goes through the Facebook group. I'm definitely like, I've been trying to help explore like moving a little bit more out into like Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, just because not everyone uses Facebook.
Right.
But if you do, that's the place to be. And if you don't, then just follow me and Harry on Twitter and join our Discords.
Yeah, there you go. And I would also say I don't use Facebook at all anymore for anything, and I've been hesitant to join anything on Final Fantasy 14 with Facebook because that does not where I want to put my information.
Yourself.
But so I can understand the want for it. There was actually Pook said something here a second ago. He was in regards to jokes. He says that the jokes are not old. It's just that the new ones are double the price.
Well, even like old jokes in Australia are double the price.
Okay.
AUD.
It's funny. We actually kind of have a couple PvP questions in here. Expecting. Are Harry or Ethys excited for the PvP updates? And then stars around it laughs at this liking PvP. They forgot the kappa, but I'm sure they meant it.
I mean, like, there's a little bit of Resident Sleeper in there, but no, I'm excited to dive in, and
I'm very excited. Yeah, I am pumped.
Yeah.
I haven't really touched. After the last feast season, I haven't jumped into PvP much, and I'm kind of happy that I didn't because it seems to be going to be getting a whole new revamp again. So I'm going to be jumping back in with the update and getting familiar with it again. But there's no information. We have to wait till Tuesday. We just wait, and I know it's something about that's kind of exciting. So.
Oh, okay, I got you. Like the anticipation. No,
I like it.
I was a little bit upset that I don't have any information on Feast and when all that stuff's going to know my position. With all this, it is interesting to see that people aren't completely like anti-PvP right now. There are people who are actually kind of looking forward to it, and I hope that they do it right here with this patch. But
well, it's been a hot minute. It's not like we're getting every patch seeing a bunch of PvP updates. People are like, oh, all right, PvP, okay.
Considering that Stormblood started out with major PvP changes and lots of attention towards it, and nothingness. It's scary for me personally. But that being said, not PvP show. We won't go too much into it. Let's see. Let's do one more time reminder that you guys can enter to giveaway. Just to give you a little bit more time. ANZED. ANZED. About that. Good, yeah.
There you go. There it is.
All right. You can type that in, and we will get you entered into the giveaway. Now, this question says, "What's up, Sfia?" Oh, nothing much. Doing great. I'm just a total piece of shit. All right. Answer for Sfia. Okay, let's go into this. All
right.
Let's go into the next question. Frosty, not super related, but have you ever heard from Chinese teams? I'm unsure how those servers work, but isn't there an Final Fantasy 14 presence in China too? There is a Final Fantasy 14 presence in China, and there are some dedicated teams that go with their updates and everything, but it's not in sync with the updates of everyone else. They're a little bit behind, so it's hard for them to be in the world race when they don't have the content. Everyone else has the content.
Have to have their own separate world race.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't need to lead that by any means at all, because I'm sure I'd get banned. But that being said, let's move on.
But it's like within their own country, so like if it should be done there if they're gonna do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. And again, is there an oceanic PvP community? I don't think there is there?
I mean, it exists, but again, it's meshed into other communities. It's not really. I mean, as far as I'm aware, our PvP community is not like. We don't have like Australian PvP teams competing for feast things or whatever, because we don't have our own tournaments or whatever. But I'm sure there are players playing in them. Like I was playing in the European one when I was over there and stuff. So
latency is a much higher barrier for entry for PvP content than it is for PvE.
Absolutely,
yes,
110%.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Although technically, I played on EU and JP servers secretly, and I probably pissed off a lot of people.
It's definitely doable. Like
it's doable. It's just not super common for like hardcore dedicated PvP players in ANZ, in Oceania.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what you consider hardcore. Like, I don't know. I compete in the feasts, and I'm still ranking in top 100s and stuff despite pinging. So I think again, it's just a matter of getting used to your ping.
Tryhard though, like.
I mean, I am a tryhard. Yeah, I sit there and I farm it too much, but it's the same thing I was saying earlier with Sfia doing World Prog. It's you get used to your ping and you start to understand what your limitations are and stuff like that.
Absolutely. We commonly have EU players play on NA and get top 100, and NA go to EU and get top 100 just because they want to play at different times of the day. And this is very sweet. I'm going to say it just because I want to. And Pook, I hope things are going well for you. We miss you, Pook.
Yes, we do.
I don't have a question. I just want to say it's awesome to see the ANZ community have something to gather support around, and I hope you guys continue to grow and get more support from Square.
You're so beautiful.
All right, let's go ahead and do the giveaway, guys. Let's see. If I don't like the person, I can just re-roll it, right? That's how this works. Just kidding. Plank Walker, you win. If you're in chat,
Plank, good on you.
Let me know.
Plank is the lurker extraordinaire.
Is he?
Plank Walker, he comes into streams and it's just like lurker reporting in and goes back to lurk.
Are you really a lurker if you say you're a lurker in chat?
Well, it's just one little line. We can pass it.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
get called out, Plank, you fucking fake lurker.
No, he's a good lurker. We love Plank.
All right, Plank, I'll get with you. Either I'm gonna try to do it through Twitch chat first. It has messed up for me before. If you don't hear anything, message me on Twitter at Frosty TV Stream, and we'll make sure you get your up to $25 Mog Station item and get you taken care of. But congratulations, dude. Absolutely. And with that all being said, I do have a final question here. Oh shit! I just read your message, Harry. I'm glad this worked out.
Perfect time.
Yeah, perfect. One last question for you before we wrap up. Just kind of overall, if there's something that you wanted to really say to the Australian and New Zealand community. What's something that you'd like to say to him? And I'll start with you, Harry, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think the thing that I would probably like to say the most, and I see it happening a lot, is a lot of people are like, it's a Facebook group. I don't join Facebook groups. I'm above that. I'm better than Facebook. I'm better than rah, rah, rah. Join in, because it is how we are going to push forward as a community. As Ethys has been saying, having that one centralized point where we can say, hey, we exist and there is this many of us, like that is how we are going to be noticed. Obviously, there's people doing amazing work, but it's that togetherness that is going to make things happen. So don't put yourself up on a pedestal. Join in with the community, be a part of it, and at the end, we will, see what rewards we get from that. So
okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's well said. I think look, if you don't use Facebook, or if you're worried about like doxing yourself or whatever. You're trying to keep like, you know, your real life and your weeaboo cat girl waifu trash life separate. I understand that. I get that. Make another Facebook account. Use a fake name. Don't pretend to be Australian if you're not. But like, that's fine. Make another account. Join the group. Get invested that way, because if we're gonna get a data center, if we're gonna get like more stuff out of Square Enix, this is the way we do it. This is like what we've invested in. This is the carriage that our horses are pulling. So find a way to get in there and get in there.
Get involved.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like in the, I guess like in the community more broadly, like outside of this Facebook group, like in game, most importantly, be involved, be invested, and you know, play the game. Play the game. Play it loudly.
Yes.
And thank you very much for supporting me and supporting Harry. And you know, we only get to do what we do because of you guys, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
And a quick thing for Square Enix, if you're watching, we got 3 points that we talked about today. 1, proper currency for subscriptions, all right? That's the number 1. 2, community manager in some way, CM, some sort of person dedicated to the Australian New Zealand community. Right?
Pay Gets. Give Gets some money.
Hey Gets?
The guy,
okay, yeah.
the guy that's already doing the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to go through a hiring process. Just get the people that are already doing the job and give them some money, okay?
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, then number 3, work on that data center for Oceanic. All right, we got 3 major things right here. The first one should be hopefully not too hard. All right? All right, we're just saying.
Let us pay for things in Australian dollars.
You know, funny on that note too, my wife, she had such an issue paying for her account for so long that she had to go and through the whole Krista thing and go through the special way of paying, and it was just such a hard. I don't, Square Enix, you like money, right?
Make it easy for us to give it to you.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show here. I appreciate both of you coming on, and sorry, you know, for New Zealand not getting the full proper representation by having Sfia on here. I'm sure he's profusely sorry for not being here today. He seemed pretty upset about not being able to make it. He said he had some kind of like, I'm really sorry, fuck shit kind of responses. I'm sure he really
no, we got to meet Sfia at the meetup at the recent meetup and stuff. He's super sweet guy, so I definitely believe you when you say that.
Yeah. But with that all being said, let's go ahead and do our final shout outs and everything from both of our guests. Make sure you know where to find them. Anything last they might want to say before we get off the air is their chats. And we'll start here with actually Ethys, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, shout out to the Final Fantasy XIV ANZ community and moderators and admins. I see Getz is here. I see Koi is here. Guys, thank you so much for everything you do. And the rest of the team, please extend our gratitude. Thank you to the European team, to Clem and Elodie and Ben and Martin and everyone else, guys. Thank you so much for coming out to PAX. And yeah, David, of course. Thank you so much for coming out to PAX, making all of that possible. It was such a blast. It was so cool having you guys in Australia, and hopefully we'll get to do it again next year or soon. Thank you so much for the support and kind of going the extra mile for the region and trying to get us what we want. It's awesome. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm Ethys. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all the places. Ethys Asher. You know who I am. I don't need to go through that again. Frosty, thank you so much. Yeah, you know who I am. Come on, Frosty. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad I could get you on. You're always wonderful. And go
Harry?
ahead. Yeah, Harry. Sorry, he started pointing. I was like, go to Harry right now. Harry, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to mimic everything that Ethys said about the community coming out, for EU community coming out, and for PAX and stuff, and for taking a little risk on old me. This is my first time doing anything officially for Square Enix, so I really appreciated the opportunity, and everyone that kind of got me to that point as well. Like, I'm still kind of processing it all. It was so much fun. And I'm super, super, super grateful. I'd also like to say a quick thank you to all the Mog Squad. I saw so many of your names coming in today. I really appreciate you coming in and supporting. It's because of you guys that I'm able to do anything that I do. So thank you for coming to streams and all that kind of stuff. If you want to find me, I am at twitch.tv/HealmeHarry. I stream 5 days a week, and it's pretty much all Final Fantasy 14. And yeah.
Okay.
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, I'll do my last bits here. I have a few announcements I want to say before we get completely off the air. Or not announcements, just reminders of things. I am currently playing through Nier, and I will try to do my best to get through as much as I can for next week's episode, which will be about Nier. Yes. And we are bringing on Larry to talk about it, who's an avid fan of it, and Mr. He's wonderful.
Lowy.
And then Mr. Klimps. He isn't known as much in the 14 community, but he is working with the lore of 14. I'm interested to see what he does, but he's very heavily invested in the game for Nier and knowing the lore and everything about the story with it. So if you guys are excited about the new Alliance raid and everything coming next week, please make that show. The second part is I will also be having a couple of weird hours. If you guys get announcements, well, probably won't be from my stream. It's actually going to be from the Solari team and their stream. I'm going to be doing commentation on a time attack with 4 very skilled teams going to Paris to play live on stage for Paris Games Week. They're going to be racing to do gauntlets through various bits of content. They're going to be doing Eden Savage. They're going to be doing Alex Savage Min Eye level, I believe.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then they're going to be racing with the ultimates. So they're each going to take a turn on stage to kind of go through, see how fast it can go, and whoever wins gets the prizes for coming out.
Nice.
So this is one of the first times we ever really did anything very serious with PvE type content. So if you guys want to see that, and this could be my first time commentating, I think I'm going to be by myself doing it, so it might be a little bit awkward. They'll have their own French stream, and then I will be doing the English restream of it, basically commentating on top of all of it. So that's going to be in the middle of the night for a lot of North Americans. I think 1 a.m., 2 a.m., probably early in the workday for a lot of people in Europe. For Australia and New Zealand, though, that might actually be a pretty good time, like after work time. So if you guys are from there, you could see some competitive stuff. Come support the raiding community by watching, I think it's Solari is their channel, and then Solari Event is going to be the one that I'll be on. And that
sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's going to happen Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a little bit later on Saturday before I do the Nier to MogTalk. It'll be a busy week, man.
Busy boy.
And then to finish all that off, I do want to make sure I tell both of you guys it's been a blast having you on. It's always a blast having you on at this, and I'm very glad that you gave me a chance, Harry, to bring you on and talk about everything.
No, I'm grateful to you. Like, honestly, it's been such a long time. I've been like, I really, like, one day I would love to be on MogTalk. Like, this is like from years ago. So,
well, you don't need to come on again. Scratch it off and never.
Yeah, it's done. My bucket list. I never need to be here again. No, I would love to come back. I had so much fun, Frosty. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And at this, I'll be bringing you on the EU show next time. I probably in a few months, right? Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Cool. All right, and I also want to do a special thanks out to everybody watching the show today, everybody watching on YouTube, wherever else, everyone who supported the show so far, and of course to my wife, Karar, for emotional support in the background of everything and approving that I do this and not hating me. Then special thanks to Andre Kane for the music I used in the intro and the closing, and special thanks to Blizana for the artwork that I use on the show to do the layout and everything. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you next time. Remember to be good to each other.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Now I'm gonna do my special thing, right?
Say the thing. Say the thing.
All right. Be good. Keep cool. And stay frosty.
He said the thing.